Good morning, Stephen.
I imagine the most difficult thing here is determining what the cost of the outage actually was to the individual or individual business.
Yes, that's right. I think individuals have suffered a lot of inconvenience mainly, whereas if you want to claim in court, you need to prove financial loss. And so I think individuals are going to have very little financial loss as a general rule, and whereas businesses might have a larger financial loss, but proving the loss is going to be critical.
So how would they, because I mean most of the disruption to business would have been, I imagine, the ability to take payments with FPOS facilities going down, etc., or the ability to take orders and bookings over the phone or via internet. Would it be, is it as simple as just determining, that day last year or what an average day's takings might have been to say, well, this is what we lost?
Yes, well, if it got to that in court or in a class action or if it got to the point where you needed to prove your loss, it would be as simple as that. What normally you would do is say, okay, this is the first Tuesday of the month or whatever it is. I think it was a Wednesday. And on an average Wednesday for the last 5 years, I've taken this amount over the till, and this is the amount I took because of the downed internet services, and so I want to be paid the difference between the two figures.
I imagine you could probably also suggest that there was probably a downturn in cash payments too, because people couldn't get access to cash.
Yes, that's right. So I think you just look at the overall average and say, well, this is the position I'm normally in on that day of the week or the month or the year, depending on your business. And overall, I'm down by X number of dollars, whether that's cash or otherwise. And you typically you get an expert to do a report on that if you could afford it. I think that's why a class action will be important if people are looking to do this. It's going to be pretty difficult for a small business to sue Optus. I think it's going to have to happen in a collective way.
Alex, are you anticipating that's going to happen? Because, I mean, normally you would make your complaints to the Telecommunications Industry Ombudsman, but given this is so big, the TIO wouldn't have the capacity.
Yes, I think that's right. So normally you would complain in first instance to Optus and see what they did, but obviously we've got some responses for Optus already which aren't very positive, and then to the Telecommunications Ombudsman, and then to a legal action. That's the kind of hierarchy, but I think people will go straight to a legal action in this case because it's affected more than 10 million users, and I think the Telecommunications Ombudsman is just going to be underwater with complaints, and frankly I don't think they're going to get the kind of results from the Telecommunications Ombudsman that they want, and so I reckon would expect within the next couple of weeks a class action to be filed, although we really need to know what the cause of the outage was, because that'll be a critical aspect in any legal proceeding.
So how does a class action work? Does a law firm, I guess, kick it off and try to put the class together? Does an individual come forward and to come to somebody like you and say, look, I want to start a class action? How does it actually work?
It can happen either of those ways. Typically a law firm who do class actions would put the word out, if you like, that they're interested in it, and they would talk to different people who've experienced losses, and then one of those people would become what they call the lead plaintiff. So they'd be the kind of the person who the proceedings brought in the name of, and they'd be an example of the kind of losses that they're dealing with, and they would publicise the claim so that people can either opt in or opt out. Different class actions have different rules, but normally it's sort of driven by a class action law firm, and then by a key plaintiff who might be a small business person who's lost a lot, made a financial loss as a result of the outage.
What do you predict the success of something like this would be? Because I know that telecommunications companies have minimum service requirement standards that they've got to live up to, but I don't know does that apply to outages? I mean, are there legal ramifications here?
Yeah, that's the really critical question. So Optus is not obliged to provide a perfect, uninterrupted service always, and they're not liable for a freak accident. So that's why the cause of this outage will be really important to investigate and establish, really probably before a class action's filed, or certainly before a class action gets very far. But they are responsible to take reasonable care to provide a service, a reasonable service. So what does reasonable care mean? Ultimately, it'll be up to a judge to decide if whatever happened was within Optus's control. So if a freak storm destroyed a power plant or something, I don't think Optus would be responsible. But if they got hacked because they failed to put the right anti-hacking software in place, then they would be liable. So it'll be up to a judge to determine that.
All right. I think we'll be hearing about this for many days and probably weeks to come. Alex, good to talk to you this morning.
Thanks, Stephen.
All the best. Alex Martin from Taurus Legal Management.